Today on Shop Nation, we wrap up the build on the new versatile Workbench by adding all of those details and finishes that would make any garage shop proud. What is going on, you guys? I'm Travis, this is Shop Nation, and today, well, today for you, many days for me, is a big day because we are finishing the Workbench. Today's video is sponsored by Bespoke Post. More on them later. That's right, this is part 4 of the Workbench build series. If you have not checked out parts 1 through 3, stop right now and go do that. Now, if you're still watching, I'm assuming you know how we got here. I drew up a set of plans for a workbench that I think would work great for just about any garage workshop, especially mine. I've essentially taken everything I've learned from the various shop projects that I've built and incorporated it into this one. So we've got integrated dust collection, electrical, part organizer bin storage, deep drawer storage, and a fully functioning router table. Now, from a functionality perspective, everything on the workbench works. I could use it just as is. But if you've seen any of my other projects, like the cabinets or my previous workbench builds, you know I'm gonna make it look awesome. That includes sealing and finishing the top surface, including adding a bunch of T-track, adding a face frame, drawer fronts, and doors, and then finally painting the entire thing. Now, I know painting is controversial, not controversial like why you'd waste so much money on a saw stop, but controversial like, why are you painting your shop furniture, dude? Just like make projects, man. Like, what are you even doing there, man? And listen, just like the table saw debate, there's no right answer. If you wanna leave your shop furniture looking like bare wood, cool, I ain't mad at you. I just have come to really like the way my shop looks when everything is done and finished and painted. Now, this goes back to a theory I have, which is where the term shop greatness came from, in that when you take that small incremental step to make something that much better, whether it be your workspace, a project, whatever, the outcome vastly outweighs the incremental effort to do that. Okay, enough pep talk, let's do the top. And honestly, this is something that I should have done right when I put the top on. So word of the wise, if you're building this project, just make sure to do this step, seal the top as soon as possible. Because as I was using the top for things like glue up, as much as I tried to protect it, stuff got on it. So it's got little blemishes and stuff, but it's a workbench, who cares? So the first thing I'm gonna do is sand it to try and get as much off as I can, just make sure it's smooth, and then I'm gonna seal it with shellac. And this time I am absolutely gonna wear safety glasses. I don't want to talk about it. Good quality PPE is so important, so I'm going to be using this RZ mask for dust and these IsoTunes wireless noise canceling earbuds to help protect my ears. Now honestly, I'm usually pretty bad about remembering this stuff, but I know I need to do better. Now, there are many ways to seal MDF, but the important thing is that you do in fact seal it. I think I like shellac best because it dries relatively quickly and with 3 coats makes a really hard and protected surface. I would recommend doing a light sanding between coats with something like 320 grit sandpaper. Okay, so with the top looking really nice, now we just need to route some channels in it. Yeah, we gotta mess it up. Now obviously you can route the channels first and then apply finish. I just thought it might be faster to do beforehand. Once I route the channels, I think I'm gonna apply probably 1 coat of shellac inside the channels just to protect them just a little bit. But regardless of whichever way you choose to do it, this is absolutely one of those nerve-wracking moments. Just like cutting the opening for the router lift, pucker factor is high. Let's just get it over with. It'll be good. It'll be good. It'll be good. Yep, it'll be good. Anytime you're routing channels like this for T-track, do yourself a favor and do a test on a scrap piece of material just to check overall fit. I'm trying to dial in the depth here more than anything. I want the T-track to sit just below the surface. So that's a good sound, right? That's what it's supposed to sound like. Then to add insult to injury, I accidentally tossed my mask right into my dust collector. When it rains, it pours. Blowout, blows. What I should have done was used a sacrificial board to act as a backer to prevent this. Now, a cool way to do that when clamping is tough, like on the edges of a workbench, is to use some blue painter's tape between the backing board and the workpiece. Then use some CA glue and some accelerant, if you've got some, to securely hold it in place. All right, so with the issue behind us and no possibility of more issues, we can continue. Son of a bitch. Remember when I said to make sure you mark out where your T-track is going when using screws or brad nails on the top? After a quick check that there were no more screws in the way, we can carry on. Here you can see way better result with no blowout. I was actually pleasantly shocked by how well this worked. Removing this little backing board is pretty easy. Usually you didn't even need to use any tools. Now for the longer runs, I had to get creative with my straight edge setup since I don't have an edge guide for my router. And surprisingly, the rest of the channels were trouble-free. So as you can see, I've got all the T-track installed except for this intersection. I ordered it and I can't really find it, so I'll have to order another one. But it actually allows me to point out something you can do, especially if you're incorporating a lot of T-track into your table, and that's actually leave the intersections out. This lets you add or remove T-track accessories pretty easily instead of having to go to the edge of the table and dragging it all the way to the center. So because all my T-track is sort of around the outside of my table, this is less important for me, and I'm going to put the intersection in. But if you had a bunch of T-track, it's an idea that might make your life a little easier. And with the top finished and out of the way, we can move on to the face frame, the doors, and the drawer fronts. Using the measurements from the plans, we'll go ahead and cut that stuff out. And let's take a quick break here to thank the sponsor of today's video, and that is Bespoke Post. Now, Bespoke Post is a monthly membership service delivering top shelf items from under the radar brands for basically every part of your life. And the best part is that even though the box is valued at least $70, you only pay $45. And to better show you how it works, I went online and filled out my interests, and Bespoke sent me a box full of things that it thinks I'm going to enjoy. Let's see what's inside. Now the box that they sent me is called the Alchemy Kit, and it looks like it's centered around making really high quality drinks and cocktails. Looks like there's a really nice muddling stick, a strainer, a couple of high quality jiggers for measuring out your alcohol, some bitter cube, which is bitters, which is an ingredient in a lot of tasty beverages, and a couple of really nice heavy duty cups for mixing all your drinks. Now, if fancy drinks are not your style, I also got some really awesome Damascus knives. Now, this is something that I would never buy myself. I frankly wouldn't even know where to get one of these things. But because one of my interests was sharp objects for cutting open Amazon packages, got some knives. Now, here's what I like about Bespoke Post. Every single month, it's different. And they make skipping months or even exchanging boxes extremely easy. So essentially what this allows you to do for only $45 a month is to discover new things, which is always good. And what I really like about Bespoke Post is it allows you to discover products from small companies that you otherwise may not have heard of. So if you want to check out one of these cool boxes for yourself, head to the link in the video description below and use this promo code to get 20% off your first box. Thank you to Bespoke Post for sponsoring the video, and let's get back out there. All of the face frame pieces are glued and brad nailed in place individually. Now you can also assemble the face frame and then install, which would definitely give you a cleaner look, but to be honest, this way is a lot quicker. Now this is designed so that there's a small gap at the top between the table frame and the face frame itself. This is to account for any small discrepancies, and you won't see it once it's all assembled. Now for the doors and drawer fronts. The plans call for a flat design with a simple chamfer around the edges, but you can obviously do whatever door style you want here. Go nuts! I gotta be honest, I was pretty excited to finally use my new router lift. Turns out they're pretty damn handy. I obviously don't have a fence yet, which would have really helped with the dust collection, but honestly the downdraft dust collection actually did work pretty well, all things considered. Now marking the hole locations for the hardware. Okay, all the doors, the drawer fronts, everything's cut to size, everything's got a bevel around the top edge. Now comes the time where we have to mount them on the actual workbench. Now I know that this step can be a little nerve-wracking for people because, let's face it, if you mount everything crooked, that's what you look at. But especially when it comes to drawer fronts, it's actually pretty easy. And I use a method that I've shown in other videos, but I'll show it again here real quick. The first step is actually pre-drilling your hardware holes in your drawer front. I know this seems counterintuitive to some, but trust me, it'll make sense in a second. Next, you're going to want to position your drawer front using spacers or measurements. Once it's exactly where it needs to go, drive in 2 screws through the pre-drilled hardware holes into the drawer box behind it. I like to use a larger diameter panhead screw for this, just so you don't damage the holes that you've already drilled. Then simply open the drawer and drive in some screws from inside the drawer to secure the drawer front. Once that's done, close the drawer back up and remove the 2 screws you put in to clamp the drawer front in place. Now using those 2 holes you pre-drilled for the hardware, use those as guides to drill all the way through into the drawer box. And then finally, just mount your hardware. So you see, it's actually pretty simple. It's a lot more simple than people realize. There's, of course, 1,500 different ways to do it, but that's a method that I found to work really well. Now mounting cabinet doors can also be intimidating, but these are easy too. I'm using some European style 1/2-inch overlay hinges, which require a large mounting hole. Now there are jigs out there to make this even easier, but it's straightforward without them too. The correct tool for this job would be a self-centering drill bit, but mine just happened to be jammed, so I'm center punching them by hand. Now just add a spacer, in this case just below the door, and mount the hinges to the face frame. The great thing about this type of hinge is that they're really adjustable, so you can really fine-tune the fit afterwards. Now I gotta admit, it looks pretty good. But as you know, like I said in the beginning of the video, I am gonna paint this thing, so the next step for me is to break it all back down and prep all the pieces for painting. This includes sanding any rough spots, filling voids like nail holes, and just getting the thing looking really nice. Once that's done, I'll transform this whole area into a paint booth and go to town with my handheld Graco sprayer. And don't worry, I'm not gonna bore you with all of that tedious stuff. I'll just show you some highlights. There is a universal constant in that the quality of your paint job is directly proportional to the work you put into the prep. So take your time and do it right. I know it's time consuming and you probably just wanna be done, but trust me, it's worth it. Here's a little tip I picked up. When using wood filler for brad nails, if the nail head is flush with the top of the wood, go ahead and drive it just below the surface so you can backfill and sand smooth. Now for the larger holes, I'm trying something a little different. I have this fiber reinforced spackling compound. No idea if this is a good idea or not, since this is obviously wood, not drywall, but I thought it was worth a shot. Now sanding everything smooth, including breaking any hard edges on the surfaces that are going to be painted. I wish it was that easy. Cleaning and taping and masking is just one of those necessary evils when it comes to painting, but man, does it take a long time. I'm gonna be using my Graco TC Pro airless sprayer. This is a little bit different than the model I've used in the past. What I like about this one versus the corded version is 1, it doesn't have a cord that drags through wet paint and on the ground. 2, it uses nicer tips that seem to give a better finish. And 3, it's adjustable, so you can really dial it in. And yes, I know I started by talking about PPE. I should be wearing a mask here. I put one on shortly after, but had to call myself out. Two coats of high quality latex paint, and we're ready for final assembly. Would you just look at it? I mean, come on, man. This thing looks freaking awesome. I am really stoked with how this thing turned out, and I'm even more stoked that now I have a workbench in my shop that I can just start using and stop building. Now, I'll admit, there were plenty of times, especially during the finishing phase, where I said, is this really worth it? And the answer, quite obviously, is yes. Honestly, the functionality built into this workbench, which is a relatively small footprint and can fit in most garage shops, should add a ton of efficiency to your workflow. I mean, the built-in router table is a luxury that I've frankly never had, and when I'm not using it, it's just part of the workbench. It's not something that's in the way elsewhere. And let's be honest, in any shop, you can never have too much storage. So having these 4 really deep drawers is gonna come in super handy, and I'm gonna be intentional and dedicate this space to stuff that I use in and around the workbench or stuff I use very commonly. Now, one of my favorite things about this project is that it's approachable. Just about anybody can build this thing. I mean, you saw me screw up more times than I care to admit. The plans are broken down so you can take bite-sized chunks and just go at your own pace. And with lumber prices jumping around like the stock market nowadays, you can plan accordingly. So if you're out there already building this project, or maybe even already finished with it, please share. I wanna see it. I wanna share with other people and show how they can do it too. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm really anxious to hear how you think it turned out. Maybe there's some ideas that I can incorporate into the future. Leave those in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, smash the like button. And if you want to see more content like this, consider subscribing. I will see you guys on the next project. And as always, continue to pursue shop greatness.